Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and the FPL eye test for Game Week 12, which just finished this weekend. All games were during the weekend as well, from Saturday until Sunday, which is really nice to see. It makes my job easier because I can go through each and every game of this FPL game week, and that's what we're going to do right now. So let's just start with the first game, which was Wolverhampton against Spurs. And this was a game that ended up being the correct result in my mind, because Wolverhampton were just so much better than Spurs. And Spurs, sadly for them, the injuries to Madison, Van de Ven, Destiny Udogie being suspended, it really affected them. And you can see that they were not the same team. But at the same time, they played against a Wolverhampton team that has been really, really good in like the bigger matches so far this season. They've been really unlucky not to get any points. But this time around, the luck was actually on their side and they managed to get a win towards the end of the game. And that is mostly due to Pablo Sarabia, who had just a fantastic game as a substitute. He came on in the 87th minute, scored an absolute stunning goal to make it 1-1. Really nice touch, and then even better finish from the touch as well from Sarabia, who's just a fantastic player. He's played for PSG, he has a long career in La Liga behind him, where he was really good for both Getafe and some other club, I can't remember exactly right now. And yeah, he's just looked really good in general throughout his career, and he's only 31 still, so I don't know why he's been like just a bench player for Wolverhampton for all this time, but he looked really good. And then the game-winning goal came from Mario Lemina, who had a fantastic game. He's one of the players that I do have a brother who watches a lot of football, but not like everything like I sort of do. And every time he watches Lemina play, Lemina is amazing, and that was the case again this time. Lemina had a really good game, really nice technical stuff he did in midfield and stuff. Won the ball several times. Really good both offensively and defensively, and he was one to make it 2-1 after a nice pass once again from Pablo Sarabia, who was just amazing. So yeah, Sarabia is a pretty cheap FPL option, so he is potentially someone you could look into, because Wolverhampton are looking a lot better than what we expected from them before the season. Hats off to Gary O'Neill for doing such a great job, but they've gone from like one of the most boring teams of all time in my mind last season to being one of the most fun sides to watch, because they create so many, like, not chances in particular, but they create so many moments of brilliance through midfield and stuff. But Lagarde as well, who was playing in midfield again, looks like an absolute fantastic player, really fun player to watch as well. They were even without Pedro Neto and still managed to create quite a lot of goal attempts and goal chances against Spurs. 2.15 XGI, or expected goals, for Wolverhampton is really, really good. Spurs 0.70 on the other hand, didn't really create much. They had the opening goal with Pedro Porro passing it to Brendan Johnson. Both those players look really good. Pedro Porro, who was looking to get 12 points as the clock went on to 90 minutes. But then the 2 goals conceded means that he goes from 12 points to 4 points in the end. Pedro Porro conceded twice, obviously lost all the bonus points, lost the clean sheet. So yeah, a huge loss for anyone with Pedro Porro still. I'm luckily in the camp that I sold Pedro Porro last week, so yeah, I would have been way more mad about this game if I still had Porro in my team. I had a different defender who I was pretty lucky with getting points, but that's a different game. But either way, Spurs in general, Son as well had a really poor game. Gotta think about how Madison's injury affects him going forward. Spurs didn't look to really solve any problems going forward in terms of how they deal without Madison, but at the same time, it's also the first game after a major injury, and I think there's like a little bit of time, like a couple weeks, where you need to like resettle your team again after you've had a key contributor go out with an injury. So I think Spurs will look better in coming weeks than they did look today. They will also be without Bissouma for next match, sadly, because he got a yellow card, so he's suspended for the next match as well. So they do get a lot of suspension and stupid injuries, Spurs, going forward, which is bad for them. But I think they will adapt. I think Ange Postecoglou will adapt at some point as well. He's a really good manager, so I think he'll find some solutions. Brendan Johnson, for what it's worth, looked really good. Had the goal, obviously. It looked like a good player in general. He's going to be playing left wing for them pretty much every game, and he's pretty cheap in midfield, so he's also a good option. Wolverhampton, as always, Matheus Cunha was amazing in terms of like play on the pitch. It's just when it comes to the final third and the final pass or the final shot from Cunha, it's always just bad. He had a pretty good chance where he just blew it far and wide out when he could have really curled it into the far corner. So Cunha is just like a tantalizing FPL prospect, but at the same time, he's really frustrating. He's like one of those Darwin, Gabriel Jesus types of players who just misses a lot of chances. Rasmus Højlund as well can be mentioned in that category, and we'll get to him with Man United. But huge win for Wolverhampton, really deserved in terms of how many things that have gone against Wolverhampton, both in terms of the refereeing decisions they've had against them and also just like pure not lucky and sometimes just not skillful enough in front of goal. But Sarabia really changed that with both his goal and assists. Really good game for him. So yeah, a really good game for Wolves and a pretty bad game from Spurs. But I think Spurs will rise again and be better eventually. Pedro Neto is still out for 3 or 4 weeks for Wolverhampton, which is a huge loss still. But they do have a lot of good players around him, like we saw with Sarabia and Cunha and stuff. So yeah, I think Wolverhampton will be fine this season. They'll be mid-table comfortably, I think, for this season in general. So yeah, that was the first game. Let's move on to the second game between Crystal Palace and Everton. And this was a really entertaining game and a really surprising game in terms of what we expected. Like we expected like a low scoring affair with Everton, who usually waste their chances, and Crystal Palace were pretty good defensively. But this time around, Everton actually took their chances really well and scored some really nice goals as well. Opening goal was Mykolenko pretty early in the match after like 2 minutes. Really nice cross from Jack Harrison, who's been a pretty good player for Everton as well. And Mykolenko, for what it's worth, has been like the best defender in FPL the last 3 game weeks. I think he has 28 points in the last 3 game weeks, including 2 goals and a clean sheet as well against West Ham. So yeah, Mykolenko all of a sudden, he has been pretty terrible so far since he came to the Premier League, but lately has just stepped it up like crazy for Everton, and really nice for Everton, who have struggled in terms of points so far this season, but they've always shown this season that they have created a lot of chances, and they have conceded some stupid goals, but they have sort of just, I don't know, they've been really unlucky. But the goal they conceded, the first goal I think, where Tarkowski just let the ball past him, I think it was maybe the second goal actually. Yeah, the second goal. The first goal was obviously the penalty for Ebrechi Eze. The second goal, Tarkowski just let the ball go past him, and then Edouard could easily score it, which was really, really dumb. So Everton still make those stupid mistakes, but they do create so many chances that they are just a really good team currently, and not a team to target at all in FPL, I think. So usually we look at Everton and it seems like an easy fixture, but nowadays I don't think so. Clearly, from the amount of people that started either Johnson in goal or a defender from Crystal Palace, they did not expect Everton to score, but Everton scored 3 goals. And a lot of that is down to Doucouré as well, who's been absolutely fantastic for Everton. He is a really, really good player, and now that he plays like sort of behind the striker, he's a pretty lethal FPL option as well. Only thing with Everton and FPL is the fact that they never really seem to get like a good run of fixtures. There's always like 2 good fixtures and then 1 bad, and 2 bad fixtures and then 1 good. Like until I think game week 33 or 34, I don't think they have like a good run of fixtures. So, but Doucouré is also someone who could just deliver in any game really. So I think he's a decent FPL pick still, even though they don't really have those great fixtures. So as like a 8th attacker, like a final attacker who you could rotate a little bit, I think Doucouré is a really good pick for only 5.5, I think he is now. So yeah, he's a decent option. When it comes to Crystal Palace, they didn't really keep a clean sheet at all. They didn't really do well in terms of defending, but offensively they look so much better now with Ebrechi Eze back in the starting lineup, and also Michael Olise coming on as a sub. They look a lot more dangerous going forward. So Edouard is actually a pretty good option right now. He scored a goal, as you can see, 1.02 non-penalty expected goal involvement. Really good from Edouard. And yeah, most of that is due to Eze and Olise coming back. They just look so much more vibrant going forward. So huge boost for Crystal Palace in general. If you are targeting Crystal Palace players, they do have some decent fixtures in still the next 2-3 game weeks, I think. So it's still not too late to bring in Eze and Edouard, but it's sort of like you sort of have to jump on the bandwagon now, otherwise you'll be a bit too late, because they do get some pretty tough fixtures from around game week 17 onwards. But yeah, in general, they look better going forward, but defensively, just a poor game in general. They did keep Everton to only 1.53 expected goals, which is not too bad. It's pretty decent actually, but Everton just took their chances really well and just were deserved winners in the end, and they are going to stay up for sure this season. A lot of people wrote them off early season. I said early this season myself that I think they are going to turn it around because they have just way too many good players, and now that they have most of their players back fit from injury, they just look a lot better. So I think Everton is a really fun differential team to go with if you want to go with someone. I think Doucouré is probably the best option. Branthwaite in defense, even though Branthwaite had a pretty poor game for his standards, he did bring down Eze for the penalty, the opening goal for Crystal Palace, and he also almost brought down Eze for the second challenge where Eze actually got a yellow card for diving, because it was barely, like, it was almost contact but not contact, so it was really close from another penalty for Eze. So Eze looks good as well if you're looking for an FPL option from Crystal Palace as well. So yeah, 2 pretty good teams in that game, and a really fun game in general. 3-2 for Everton. Fun match. Then Arsenal against Burnley. And the big talking point here is the defender swing, because both Saliba and Zinchenko scored a goal each for Arsenal, but they did concede a stupid goal against Burnley. So that means the likes of Gabriel, and especially those with Ben White, are kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of the points, because Ben White didn't even play this game. He was out for some reason, wasn't even on the bench. So some issue there for Ben White. So yeah, people with Trossard, especially people with Trossard who had a goal and assist, but people with Saliba or Zinchenko in their team are happy because they both scored 2 goals from set pieces. Once again, Arsenal are just really good when it comes to scoring set pieces, which it makes it even more sort of, I guess, laughable for those of us with Gabriel that he hasn't scored yet, because he is their best threat when it comes to set pieces, but he just doesn't score for some reason. Saliba got the easy tap in, like basically on the line. He got a free header to score for Arsenal from a Trossard corner. Trossard also got the first goal, really nice goal from Trossard in terms of just risking it all, and then basically putting his body on the line to score the goal. Header in from Saka, and then Trossard just goes for the ball, even though he crashes into the post and injures his arm. He sacrificed himself for Arsenal and scored the opening goal, which was really good for Arsenal because they struggled really to create that much against Burnley in the first half. And that goal really helped them open things up. So yeah, when it comes to Burnley, again, it's still the team to target, I think, especially seeing as people keep getting rested when they play against Sheff United. I still think Burnley is actually the team to target currently in FPL. And yeah, they didn't really do much in this game. In general, they had a pretty fluky goal, pretty big deflection that made it go in. But they did defend slightly well in the first half, so maybe they are slightly better at defending. But at the same time, when they do play at home, Burnley, they do expect to push forward and score goals, and that's where I think the other team can really take advantage. So I think West Ham away against Burnley the next game week is definitely a team to look after. So we'll talk about West Ham pretty soon. Actually, it's next up, I think, on the list. No, it's pretty soon. But either way, let's go to Man United Luton first. And Man United, which the kind of crazy thing for me is that I looked at the table because I was just like looking at Man United, like they have had a better season than Everton so far, but not that much better, I thought. But they actually have, like, they're actually 6th place and only 6 points behind Arsenal. I don't know how they've done it, Man United, because they have not looked good at all this season. But they do get the points somehow from these games. Against Fulham last week, 1-0 right at the end, 1-0 against Luton this time, 2-1 against Wolves. They do 2-1 against Sheff United as well. They keep winning, like really not. They don't really look good at all when they win, but they do actually get the 3 points, so they are actually in a decent position, and they are low-key, slightly-ish sort of turning it around. It was by no means a good game against Luton, but as you can see from the expected goals, they were pretty much deserved winners in this one. Especially Rasmus Højlund has been just super wasteful this season. I think he's had 7 or 8 big chances so far this season, and he still doesn't have a Premier League goal. He does have 4 goals in the Champions League, however, so I think it's slightly down to just being unlucky. He had this mega chance in the first half where the cross was sort of deflected, went into the path of Højlund. He had to react to sort of get a foot on it, and then the finish just wasn't good enough. It went straight at Kaminski, who has been a really good goalkeeper, by the way, this season for Luton. I think he's a huge reason why Luton haven't been spanked more this season, because Kaminski has been really good defensively. But yeah, Man United in the end deserved winners, and they pick up 3 more points not unexpectedly, but like not impressively, I guess. Lindelof with the winning goal after cross or finish from Rashford, it depends. That also meant that he got an assist at first, but then they pulled it back because they figured it was a cross rather than a shot from Rashford. The ball hit the defender and went out to Lindelof, who managed to score from point-blank range, I guess. But a good finish for a centre-back, especially Lindelof, who got the 15 points, I guess, from that game, which is huge for anyone that has punted on Lindelof. But yeah, Man United keep another clean sheet as well. Like, they have actually picked up a couple clean sheets lately. So yeah, they are looking decent, but their good matches are also sort of going away pretty soon. So yeah, I'm not sure if I would invest in any Man United players. Bruno Fernandes still looks a bit penalty dependent. Rashford has looked better playing on the right rather than on the left. I think Man United in general have benefited from Rashford playing on the right and Garnacho playing on the left. Of course, Garnacho has been pretty decent as well, even though he missed a pretty big chance where he was passed the ball from Højlund. Højlund could have had the assist there as well. And Garnacho sort of just like lost the ball stupidly. But I think Man United have looked a lot better with Rashford on the right and Garnacho on the left. So they do look a bit better, and they do get the points always, but still not really a team to target, I think. Yeah, Rashford, like I said, Fernandes penalty dependent. Rashford still not looking at his best, still doesn't have the best confidence, and then Højlund just can't score for some reason. So I guess defensively is potentially where you have to look for United players. Maybe Diogo Dalot, who has played pretty regularly this season. Maybe he's someone to look into. Maybe Onana is actually setting up to be like one of the better goalkeeper prospects currently. But like I said, their matches going forward aren't the best. When it comes to Luton, not really much to talk about when it comes to FPL. Issa Kabore, I think, had another pretty good game offensively. Had a really nice cross to Carlton Morris, which was like one of the only chances that Luton had this game in general. But yeah, Kabore looks pretty good. I think he should be nailed in this squad now. So anyone that has him as a bench option, like me, for example, pretty happy with just keeping him, to be honest. So yeah, Kabore is looking decent offensively, but didn't pick up any points in this game. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to talk about with that game. Not much to talk about otherwise than Kabore for Luton. Let's move on to Bournemouth against Newcastle, which was probably the most surprising result of the whole weekend. I did not expect Bournemouth to be like the team that took charge of this game, but they definitely were, and they were definitely deserved winners, as you can see from the 50 goals, 2.46 compared to 0.49. Really impressive game for Bournemouth in general. So I'm really happy that they actually stuck with Andoni Iraola, gave him some more weeks, because he is like a new and sort of he's a manager who tries to go for it. He doesn't really try to defend, and like, or he tries to defend, but he doesn't try to like defend themselves to 1 point. So they don't try to defend like a 0-0 score. They're actually going for it, and now they're actually looking a bit more comfortable going forward. And they do have some really good players. Solanke is a really good player, even though he had a pretty good chance that he missed. He did actually get the goal in the end, though, after the ball was deflected into his path, which sort of seems to happen a bit with Solanke. He scored like that against West Ham as well. So Solanke is actually looking like a pretty decent prospect currently. Sinistera as well, looking also pretty decent. He is a really good player. Leeds have had a lot of good wingers last season who have gone on to play in the Premier League now, and they are actually looking pretty good. They still have some good players as well who might be potential FPL picks next season, but for now, Bournemouth look actually pretty good. They kept a clean sheet against Newcastle, which is really good, because Newcastle have been like one of the better teams in terms of creating chances. But I think it's also partly down to Newcastle not having that striker. They played Anthony Gordon up front because both Wilson and Isak weren't ready to play this game. They weren't fit to play. And I think it's sort of hampered Newcastle on two ends, because both they need Gordon to be that attacking winger sort of player. They don't have that anymore when he has to play as a striker, and Gordon as a striker is just not the same caliber of a forward as Wilson or Isak. So I think they really need this international break now, Newcastle, to sort of just collect their team and get back one of their or two of their strikers for the next few game weeks. So I think the international break is going to serve Newcastle well, because they are looking very tired defensively as well. Several really dumb mistakes. Trippier just basically passed the ball to Solanke, who managed to just fluff it out of bounds. Trippier had another pretty poor game after he had a pretty poor game, what was it, 2 game weeks ago against Wolves? So Trippier hasn't looked the best either. Also interesting with Newcastle is the fact that they started with Lewis Hall at left back and Trippier at right back, and then at the half they switched Lewis Hall to Livramento, and I think that's going to be who's going to play going forward as well. So I think those of you guys who invested in Livramento, I would not lose hope. I think Livramento is going to play going forward, and if he plays as a right back, I think he can get a lot of points. And I think it's also going to hamper Trippier if he has to play on the left as well, because he can't be quite as attacking. And Trippier, to be honest, hasn't been as good going forward lately either. So maybe it's time to jump off of Trippier, but at the same time, like I said, the international break might help them get back into the rhythm of things. But they do have a lot of tough matches coming up after the international break as well. On all fronts, basically. They play in the Cup, they play in the Champions League, and they also play in the league, obviously. So they do have a really tough schedule, and I don't think they have the best squad to sort of deal with it. So yeah, they are struggling a little bit, and they are behind Man United in the table, it has to be said. Like Man United, people are talking about Ten Hag potentially being sacked and stuff, and then now they are in front of Newcastle in the table, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, Bournemouth looking much better. I think they are going to be a lot better going forward, but they are still a team that you could potentially target. They did lose 6-1 against Man City not too long ago, even though they have had a couple of good results. So Bournemouth still a team that you can target, but I don't think there will be as easy of a game as they have been in the past this season, because I think Iraola is finally finally getting this team back into shape, and they are getting some players back as well, or have had some players back from injury now who are looking good. So yeah, Bournemouth are on the up. Newcastle sort of low-key downward trajectory, but I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue long-term for Newcastle. They do have a lot of good players still, and they just need that striker back, whether it's Wilson or Isak, pretty much. Then we have another really good game, especially for me as a West Ham fan. 3-2 for West Ham against Nottingham Forest. And this was just a classic David Moyes win in terms of the goals scored. First goal was just a really big mistake from Forest, just passed it straight into... I can't remember which player it was, but some player passed it into his own teammate, and then the ball just went straight to Paqueta. Paqueta actually could have passed Bowen, who was making like a really good run on the outside, but Paqueta just decided to shoot it for himself, and he scored. So yeah, good goal for Paqueta, but he could have assisted Bowen, who was playing as a striker for this game. Speaking of Bowen, he actually got the West Ham equalizer again, because Forest actually turned it around and scored 2 goals on the trot. Taiba, when he scored the first goal, he's just been a really good player in general in FPL since the end of last season, and his link with Morgan Gibbs-White was really lethal towards the end of last season, and that's looking good again now. Gibbs-White had a shot that Areola saved onto the path of Avoni, who scored. So Avoni is looking good, 1.33 non-penalty expected goal involvement, which is really, really good. He got a goal, and he's just looking like the real deal, and especially with Nottingham Forest's fixtures coming up, they are pretty good, so I think Avoni is a really good option in FPL. But he scored. Elanga scored a really nice goal as well, and gave Nottingham Forest the lead. But from that point on, West Ham just took over the game, and basically, in my view at least, were the deserved winners, because they had several good chances towards the end. The first goal, or the 2-2 goal, was, like I said, Bowen scoring from a corner, really well taken corner from Ward-Prowse, which we sort of expect him to. His set-piece delivery has been pretty poor for the last 4 or 5 game weeks, Ward-Prowse, but not pretty poor, but not up to his regular standards. But this game, 2 corners, 2 goals from it. Bowen first with a header, open header for Bowen, who is, to be fair, a really sneaky player in terms of being in the box. I think he's sort of like Salah in that way as well. He's getting compared to Salah. He's sort of like a poor man Salah in many ways. And that's why Liverpool are sort of after him as a Salah replacement if Salah gets sold. But he's also really sneaky in the box, and he knows where to be for the ball to fall down to him on corners as well. And that's what he showed in this goal. Really nice header from Bowen, 2-2. And then Souček had another huge chance. He was passed through an open goal from a Nottingham Forest defender, I think, and hit the bar. Just after that, West Ham get another corner, another fantastic delivery from Ward-Prowse, and Souček headed it home for the West Ham win. So, huge win for West Ham, or a massive win in terms of getting the season back on the right track, because West Ham have sort of been not too good lately, but they do have really good fixtures coming up. But still, a lot of people have Alphonso Areola in goal for FPL. He's still not a good option because West Ham keep conceding stupid goals, but they did create a lot going forward, and Bowen is looking good. Kudus is looking good as well, even though we didn't get any goal moments in this game. But I think Bowen is sort of the pick to have for West Ham, and he's definitely someone I'm targeting for next week when they play Burnley away, which I think is probably the best fixture to play in FPL. So yeah, Bowen definitely an option. Mikel Antonio didn't start this game, but he was also not even on the bench in the Europa League game in midweek, so I think he's sort of struggling with a slight issue. So I'm not sure entirely if Antonio is dropped and they're going to play Bowen from now on as a striker, or if Antonio is going to be back for the next game. But whether Bowen plays as a striker or if he plays as a right winger, I think he's still going to be a pretty good option in general, and he just always gets chances, and he's been pretty good at converting the chances as well this season. So I think Bowen looks really good. Awoniyi looks really good for Nottingham Forest as well. So a couple of good FPL options from this game as well. Souček, I wouldn't really trust him to play offensively and play that many minutes, so I wouldn't trust him too much. Ward-Prowse, he is still set-piece dependent. He did actually have a decent chance to get a goal as well. Another chance where Paqueta had the ball and just shot it after losing the ball a little bit behind him. He really could have passed Ward-Prowse there. So Ward-Prowse was slightly more attacking in this game. So he's looking more like the West Ham we saw at the start of the season, where Ward-Prowse was more attacking. But yeah, they got the win in the end, 3-2. Happy days for all West Ham fans, including myself. So yeah, fun game in general as well. Just a lot of good chances going back and forth, and really good game. Brighton against Sheff Utd, not the best game, 1-1, and another disappointing result for Brighton, and another surprisingly decent result from Sheff Utd. Adingra, he actually got to play on his favorite left side because he is actually a left winger, but he has played as a right winger in the absence of Solly March lately. But this time around, Kaoru Mitoma was benched for the first half, and Adingra got to play on the left, and he paid the Brighton back by scoring a fantastic goal, and De Zerbi was super happy with this goal. Like, he celebrated it like crazy on the sideline. It's really fun to see. But yeah, Adingra's looking like a good pick. Ansu Fati got the chance to play up front. João Pedro, even without Ferguson in the squad, didn't make the starting 11, but both João Pedro and Mitoma came on at the half, but it didn't help Brighton, who only managed to get 1-1 because Sheff United scored in the second half. A cross from Jayden Bogle put into an own goal for Brighton with Adam Webster putting it into his own net. So that was it, basically. Brighton just not looking quite as good lately, especially now that Stepinian is still out. He got injured in the Europa League game and is still out now. Wasn't even in the squad for this game. And I think he's sorely missed for Brighton because they're just not looking like themselves anymore, really. So yeah, they are struggling with some injuries. I think Enciso is also sort of slightly coming back at some point. He's going to be a really fun player to watch. Buonanotte got the chance to play on the right this game. He's actually a pretty good player as well. So they have a lot of attacking talent, but they just can't seem to put it together now, Brighton. And Sheffield United, for what it's worth, are putting up a bit more of a fight now than they did at the start of the season. So they've had a couple of good results now lately. So maybe not as easy of a fixture as we expected. And like I said, it seems like the game where managers tend to rest their better players, because we saw with Arsenal where they rested, well, Ødegaard was actually injured, but they rested Gabriel Magalhaes as a defender against Sheffield United. That worked out for them. They beat them 5-0. And Brighton now rested Mitoma against them, even though it's before an international break where Mitoma is going to travel far and wide to play for Japan. And he's going to come back pretty tired as well, I think. So I don't really get why Mitoma was rested for this game, but yeah. It ended up not being paid off for Brighton because they only managed to get 1-1, and that's really disappointing to see from a team that was so good at the start of the season. Let's move on to the final three matches, and we have Liverpool against Brentford. And this was a huge game for those of us with Salah, Tsimikas, and or Darwin. Personally, I have Salah. I have Tsimikas, who I was really close to selling this week because I did not expect him to start this game even. I was sort of like 50-50 if he was going to start or not, Tsimikas. And it turns out Joe Gomez was actually slightly injured and he wasn't in the squad. And I think that's why Tsimikas started, because I think if Joe Gomez was fully fit, he probably would have played as left back this game, potentially. But maybe it is because it's an easier game. Tsimikas gets to play. That might be how they treated Liverpool. When they need to defend, they have Joe Gomez. And when they need to attack, they have Tsimikas. That might be how they play it. But it ended up working out for them because Tsimikas got 2 assists in this game. The first goal for Liverpool was a Darwin assist to Salah, who was once again in a good position, got the ball and scored. Salah at home is just lethal. You don't back against Salah when he plays at Anfield, and that's why I had him as captain personally. I know some people went with differential picks, but yeah, Salah is just one of those guys that you can always trust to be amongst the goals, or close to the goals at least. Got a nice opening goal, Salah, and then he got the nice second goal as well, where Tsimikas barely was not, he was like really close to being offside, but it wasn't offside, and it was really close to the ball to go out, but it didn't go out. The ball was crossed to Salah, who scored a header. Salah didn't even celebrate because he was sort of expecting the goal to be disallowed. He looked back at the linesman to see if he had flagged it out. But no, the ball was kept in, and an assist for Tsimikas and a goal for Salah. And then Tsimikas got another assist on top of keeping a clean sheet, so a huge haul for Tsimikas in general. The second assist was sort of more like an assist though, because that was mostly down to Diogo Jota just being a fantastic player who scored. So yeah, Tsimikas, really jammy points for those of us with Tsimikas still. Like I said, I was really close to selling him for someone like Lascelles, who only got 1 point. So I feel really lucky in that regard in terms of FPL. But Liverpool have proven that they are a really good team at home, especially. And yeah, Salah, Tsimikas, and Darwin are all pretty good FPL picks. That's why they have been in the weekly wildcard draft for me a couple game weeks. But this past game week, I dropped both Darwin and Tsimikas because I wasn't entirely sure about their starting prospects. But they both started. They both had some point returns this time around. So happy days for those with those players. When it comes to Brentford, they actually did have a couple of chances, as you can see from the expected goal tally. They actually won the expected goal battle in terms of 1.57 for Brentford, 1.53 for Liverpool. And Mbeumo had the bigger chances for Brentford. He had some pretty poor finishes, and this is what we've come to expect from Mbeumo. He just gets a lot of chances. He's always in the right position to get chances, but he doesn't really take them that well. He got gifted a pretty good chance from Trent Alexander-Arnold, just passing it straight to him. He tried to pass to Van Dijk, but the ball went straight to Mbeumo, who sort of rushed his shot, and the shot went out. He had another decent chance in the second half as well, Mbeumo, but just didn't manage to score. But he is always amongst the chances, at least, Mbeumo. He gets a lot of expected goal involvement every single game. And now that Brentford are getting easier fixtures from game week 14 onwards at least, he is definitely a prospect you should look into bringing in, because yes, they do blank in game week 18, but you can just bench him for that game week, have both him and Holland on the bench, and then have them ready for the double game week, most likely in game week 20. So I think Mbeumo looks like a great pick. If you want to go with a defender for Brentford, I think Pinnock is the standout choice, because he's always up there when it comes to set pieces. He has 0.35 non-penalty expected goal moment from this game as well. So he's looking like the best defender for Brentford, but they did concede 3 goals against Liverpool, so maybe not the best defense to target, especially with all the injuries that they have. But yeah, great game for Liverpool, not so great game for Brentford, but that's also sort of expected when it comes to Anfield, so 3-0. Kind of flattering result for Liverpool, I guess, but still, they are one of the best teams in the league, and especially at home, they are just pretty much unbeatable. So yeah, hats off to Liverpool for this win. Aston Villa, speaking of unbeatable at home, this is another team that is a really good home team, and they show that again against Fulham. And once again, you can see, I almost call him Solly Watkins. Ollie Watkins had a goal, really nice, well-taken goal, the 3rd goal for Aston Villa, but at the same time, he had 1.99 non-penalty expected goal moment and didn't get a goal. The first thing he actually did in the game was win a penalty for Aston Villa, and it looked like it was going to be another nice assist for him and a goal for Douglas Luiz. But then VAR stepped in and didn't deem it a foul. So yeah, it basically didn't become a penalty. No penalty for Aston Villa. Then Aston Villa takes the lead, and it was a cross from Yuri Tielemans, and then Diaby gets an ever so slight touch on the ball. And I say this as someone with Diaby in my FPL team. I know I'm biased, but I do think he did just get a little bit of a touch to just put Anthony Robinson off, just enough to put it into his own net. It's really hard to see the touch because the touch happens right before the ball bounces off the ground, so you can't really see the deflection. But it did deflect a little bit from Diaby's foot, and that's why he got the assist in the end from FPL. Thankfully for me as a Diaby owner in FPL. Really happy with that. But yeah, McGinn scored the 2nd goal. He picked up the ball and shot it himself and scored, kind of like Paqueta. He could have passed. This time it could have been McGinn to Diaby. Diaby was in a really good scoring position, but McGinn took his shot by himself and scored. McGinn has actually showed up with a couple of goals lately as well. We've seen that in the past, especially when they were in the Championship. He was actually a pretty lethal option going forward. He had a couple of goals, a couple of assists that season. But he has been sort of like more defensive minded in the recent years. But this season he has actually been pretty attacking minded and scored a goal as well. So he is a decent option, but I think Diaby and Watkins especially are better options. You also have Medikash, who once again conceded. Aston Villa just seem to concede every game, and this time was no different. But first they took a 3-0 lead from Watkins. He scored an open goal basically. Once again, McGinn was involved offensively, held the ball up really well, passed it to Bailey, who came on at the hour mark for Diaby, and Bailey swung it in really nicely for Watkins to just tap it in easily. And then Fulham scored, like I said. They got the goal, a really well-taken goal, which is at least something Fulham can take from this game. Passed through to Anthony Robinson, who actually made up for his own goal a little bit, at least, with a really nice run, and just passed it off to Raul Jimenez, who scored easily. Good goal for Jimenez. Nice to see him score a goal, because yeah, you really have to feel for Jimenez, who was such a great striker in the Premier League before his head injury, and he's never been the same since. But yeah, nice goal for Fulham. And then Watkins had another mega chance towards the end of the game. He basically got a free header, point blank range for like 4 yards out, just about. And he just headers it wide. So Watkins easily could have had a 2nd goal there, which would have been 3 bonus points as well, I think, on top of that. So yeah, huge miss for Watkins in terms of not scoring that goal. Could have been a lot more points, and that's what you get from Watkins. He gets a lot of expected goal moments, but you shouldn't say never, but he rarely gets like the big hole that he got against Brighton. That is not really something you see normally. That was a huge overperformance when it comes to expected goals, the game against Brighton. And ever since that, he's just been underperforming in his expected data, but he's still a really good pick, because Aston Villa at home are pretty much just a really good team. Like, they are fantastic and score a lot of goals at home. So I think Watkins is someone you can easily keep as well, even though Aston Villa gets some tougher fixtures now. I mean, they do have Spurs and Bournemouth for the next 2 games, so I think it's still... I think I would still hold on to my Aston Villa players. I do have Cash and Diaby, and I'm probably going to hold them for the next 2 game weeks myself. And I probably would do the same if I had Watkins, because I think he is going to score and get assists in in the next 2 games, but it's just a matter of how many, because he always gets enough chances to get several point returns, but he never really, or rarely gets the big hauls that he did get against Brighton. When it comes to Fulham, I still think it's a good team to target. They are not really that good at all, but they always seem to concede sort of less goals than you expect them to concede, and they also seem to get that one cheeky goal here and there. So yeah, you're kind of like a, I don't know, just a non-starter when it comes to FPL, and not really an interesting team in terms of buying players from that team. But in terms of targeting them, I think you're still viable to do so. I think they are a team that you can target. And then finally, the main game, I guess, of the game week between Chelsea and Man City. Just a crazy, really good game in general. 4-4, end-to-end stuff, goals on both ends. The lead kept changing back and forth between Man City and Chelsea. Just a really fun game in general. First goal for City was the penalty for Haaland. I don't think it should have been a penalty, to be honest. I think Man City have been pretty lucky when it comes to refereeing decisions so far this season. It was sort of the same as the Man United penalty against Man United, or the Man City penalty against Man United earlier in the season. Like, it was sort of like a shirt pull or holding from Cucurella on Haaland, but at the same time, it should have been a foul against Haaland first, because he basically just pulled Cucurella away to get into the better position, and then he was brought down, kind of clumsily, but also kind of like cheaply. I think so. I don't think it should have been a penalty, but Haaland converted from the spot as he usually does, scored a goal there. But then Chelsea turned it on again and scored a couple goals. Palmer got an assist pretty early. Sterling had a goal. Chelsea, again, they turn up in these big games for some reason. They lose against Brentford and Nottingham Forest at home, but then they managed to get 4-4 against Man City. They got 2-2 against Arsenal. They beat Spurs 4-1 last time. It's just something about Chelsea and these big games, and that's why Palmer is still just a really good FPL pick, because he keeps getting penalties, he keeps scoring the penalties, keeps getting a cheeky assist here and there, and Chelsea just keeps scoring goals as well. For some reason, they've just turned it on now. Now that most people have sold their Chelsea assets, like Sterling and Jackson, they're actually showing up with some goals. Both Sterling and Jackson scored in this game. Thiago Silva made it 1-1 for Chelsea first, and then they took the lead 2-1. Before Akanji got it level before the half. So just a really good game in general. Like I said, Haaland got a goal as well. He scored with his ass, pretty much. The ball went out to the side, crossed into the box, and Haaland, from the cross from Alvarez, managed to slide it in using his buttocks, as it were. The goal was checked for like a minute for potential handball, but it was nowhere near a handball, so I don't know why they checked it for that long, but ever since that Liverpool incident where they got the goal taken away, which should have stood against Spurs, VAR has just gone crazy in terms of just checking goals, checking pretty much everything, because they are really scared about getting anything going past them. So they just use a lot of time checking stuff. But to be fair, I've gone through all the games and I haven't really complained that much about VAR at all. VAR seemed to be much more of a non-factor this weekend. Finally, actually got some nice football without all those interruptions and all those weird decisions from VAR. So I guess we have to be thankful for that. But yeah, this game just delivered on all fronts. In terms of the goals, it seemed like Man City were going to get the win in the end. They managed to turn around and have the 3-2 lead after Haaland scored with his butt. But then Chelsea managed to get 3-3 again. And then Rodri seemed like he was going to get another huge winning goal for Man City. But right at the end, Chelsea get a penalty, a clear penalty again, where Ruben Dias made a really foolish challenge and brought down the Chelsea player. And just an easy penalty for Palmer to take and make, because Palmer has been really good with the penalties and gotten a lot of points from that. Chelsea keep getting penalties and Palmer keeps scoring them. Jackson as well had a goal for the 3-2 goal for Chelsea, or 3-3 goal, yeah, 3-3 goal for Chelsea. Jackson had. And again, I think it was Diaz who sort of made like a sliding challenge to try to stop the shot from, was it Sterling who shot it or Gallagher who shot it? Rather than following Jackson's run, he slid down, I think it was Diaz. And that made it easier for Jackson to just go through and get the ball and score the rebound. So nice for Nico Jackson, who's finally actually scoring goals now. So several Chelsea players are sort of making their mark lately, and now it looks like Christopher Nkunku is going to come back for Chelsea pretty soon as well, potentially right after the international break. So I think Chelsea going forward are going to be pretty good going forward in terms of goals. Scoring 4 goals against Man City, not many teams will do that at all. And Chelsea look like a better team going forward now than they have done all season. With Nkunku back, I think he's going to slot in as a striker mostly, because I think Palmer and Sterling are going to play most games. Gallagher has been pretty good under Pochettino, to be honest, and he seems to be a favorite of Pochettino as well. So I think Nick Jackson is potentially the one to drop out, but Nick Jackson has also showed up the last 2 game weeks. So yeah, Chelsea just have a lot of players to choose from now, and I think Sterling, Palmer, and Nkunku are all going to be really viable options going forward. So yeah, I think Chelsea are really a team to look at going forward, and also, I said going forward several times now, but also Badiashile as well is coming back in defense. So yeah, Chelsea are looking a lot better, and their fixtures are going to turn around pretty soon as well. So definitely you should think about getting Chelsea players in your team. When it comes to Man City, I think it's pretty much Haaland or nothing at this point. Doku got a huge haul last time, but as we sort of expected, it's sort of not going to be an every week occurrence for Doku, because he is a fantastic player, but he's not going to get so many assists from 0.50 something expected assists that he did last time around, last game week. Man City still scored 4 goals. Haaland with the brace, got the assist as well, really lucky assist. Kovacic actually had a shot that was rebounded to Rodri, who scored, but on the rebound the ball barely grazed or touched Haaland's foot. So that gave Haaland an assist on top of his 2 goals, and gave him the matching score with Salah. So anyone with Salah and Haaland captaincy, you've won this week. Everyone else I went with, Watkins got 6 points, decent enough. Son blanked, not the best. Bowen got a goal, which was pretty good as well. Bowen is actually my favorite captaincy option next week, or next game week, I should say. But either way, Haaland and Salah were the main men this game week, as they have been several other game weeks. And that's pretty much it for that game week. Yeah, just really fun game week, really fun matches, several really fun matches, and not that much VAR interference, which is what we like to see. Yeah, so let's just end it with that. That has been the FPL eye test for game week 12. Now we're going into the international break, so it's going to be a bit of a different video schedule as usual. I'm going to spend a lot of time trying to improve the videos, try to maybe make some other types of videos, maybe some shorts for YouTube, maybe some TikToks or Instagram sort of videos as well, like shorter term content. Because yeah, if you've been watching this video and you're still with me at this point, you know that mostly my videos are just me just rambling to a camera. That's pretty much how I prefer making the videos, but I'm also trying to make some more like short form content for those of you guys that don't have that much time to listen to me just blabber on about Premier League games. So either way, subscribe for that type of content. I'm going to try to make a lot more content, especially after we're back from the international break. And with that, I'm going to leave you. Thank you for watching this video and this YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.